Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
I just jumped because I thought he was going to put the mic in front of me, but he didn't.
Oh man, I guess I played that card too many times, and we are good. Okay, so we want to go a little deeper. I saw two articles today that were just hitting me like we needed to share a little bit more. And again, Cindy and I, we're not doctors, and actually we're glad about that fact. We're not scientists per se. We're what you would call lay people. And in my world, that means, perhaps there's potential to be unbiased.
Absolutely. It's the education and the training. That's what creates these boundaries for us where we're in the belief that we can't step outside certain bounds.
Yeah, where you can't see the forest for the trees. And, you have this, it develops a tunnel vision. And that's so sad, and it's so obvious in this world where people right now, because of their, education, so to speak, can't see the bigger picture of what's really going on, or don't want to see, for that fact. So when we look at the size of the Earth compared to the size of the sun, is that not just, does that put things in perspective or what?
Yeah, I mean, that's just really monstrous.
Yet the sun is so benevolent, and it is, well, the reason for life here. And it's also a relay. We could, again, equate it to a neuron in a way in the mind of God with the big G, not the fake Anunnaki or EGG or others trying to portray themselves as source. Can't say source, and then we have the creator gods that are these beings that are very, very high up in vibrational frequency that actually manufacture these universes for us to explore, for consciousness to explore. So right now it's really we need to focus on the sun, and if we can focus on the sun and taking in energy from the sun consciously, taking it in as I watch a military helicopter going by out there. It's all about DNA mutation because things are changing rapidly, really, really rapidly. We're at one of those key points in history where you have these rapid changes. Of course, change, they tell us, happens so gradually scientifically, but there's so many things out there that don't make sense that they're always talking to us about. So here we see, this is from Dartmouth EDU News. Study links glaciers to the Earth's great unconformity. Ancient ice action seems responsible for massive erosion of rock across planet. And talking about things like the Grand Canyon, as you're taking a peek at that there. Thankfully, many people have been awakened to the fact of plasma discharge and understand now, many of you out there have heard of this plasma discharge events, the solar sneeze, the great flash, things of that sort that happen at certain intervals, depending on where we are and what's going on in the area which we are in.
Absolutely. And myself, and I've heard of others having this vision of the solar flash and having that flash change our bodies to something of a different vibration, a higher vibration, helping us have abilities to manifest things and not need things like water and food because we'll be able to pull that from our surroundings.
Absolutely. That's what we have gotten, a fifth density being, and for that matter, even somebody that's on the fourth density doesn't really have to eat. All you have to do is consciously take in the energy around you. Ultimately, anything that you eat is actually energy that comes from the sun anyway, and from other stars coming from great distance. And if we are stardust, which that is what our bodies are, it's pretty, it makes sense, and it's pretty obvious. So the planet was different 700 million years ago. In the Cryogenian period, Earth featured a single supercontinent known as Rodinia. Complex organisms had yet to explode onto the scene, and the globe was an ice-covered snowball. Yet, that doesn't explain those spheres that are over 2 billion years old. Somebody else was here, right? So this is all, it's so distorted, so covered up. And they're talking here about snowball Earth, a rock as much as 3 miles deep was carved away by geological forces. The result is up to 1 billion years of missing geological time, known as the Great Unconformity. The fact that so many places are missing the sedimentary rocks from this time period has been one of the most puzzling features of the rock record. So says an assistant professor of earth sciences. So they've been debating the cause of the massive erosion of rocks. Some believe the phenomenon was the result of Ice Age glacial activity, while others point to plate tectonics from the assembly and breakup of the Rodinia supercontinent. The underlying concept's pretty simple. Something removed a whole lot of rock, resulting in a whole lot of missing time. And this is what they say, formed the Grand Canyon. And so, here there's a new study again, saying it's glaciers, glaciation, it's glaciers. Okay. You're saying it's glaciation. How about over here? And we have Valles Marineris, the Grand Canyon of Mars, right? Is this glaciation on Mars then? This particular one, this extends over 3,000 kilometers long, spans as much as 600 kilometers across, and delves as much as 8 kilometers deep. By comparison, the Grand Canyon is 800 kilometers long. Mars's is 3,000 kilometers long. That's almost 4 times as long. And the Grand Canyon's 30 kilometers across. This one's 600 kilometers across. That's 20 times. That's an awful lot of snow you're going to have on Mars. Where did it all go, guys? They don't want to admit that Mars, had intelligent life and civilization, and, yet they're going to say, well, on Earth it was glaciers, so what was it on Mars?
Exactly. So, these are things that, boy, aren't we lucky we have science to not explain things to us, huh?
No, the fact is, that there are people in the know that know the hidden history. And so, again, they are the ones that give the grants to the scientists to do the research. And, of course, they're going to want a particular outcome. Any outcome that's not the truth might be fine, because, again, they don't want to give out to the public the way things really work.
No, absolutely not. And especially what we uncovered about this information. What we gathered is really curious. And what if people knew that to be, what if we were actually told the truth about things?
Well, I keep going back to the whole photon belt thing, because when I was trying to talk to some people in the late 80s, early 90s about photon belt, they just thought I was woo-woo, cuckoo. They're like, ooh, 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 ooh. Somebody better go get a butterfly net and wrap this one up, take them away to the psych ward. Yet now we know, scientifically we're in a more energetic place on our journey, as our solar system is constantly moving. And we are constantly moving. And we go through these different areas. We've been in what Peter Dunev called as a dead zone with these dark entities that are all around us, and that, in fact, these dark entities are controlling the leadership of this world right now, but their time is extremely short now. We've been in the dead zone. We're coming into the light zone. We're getting blasted with so much more positive energy that's causing DNA mutations, which, they have turned off massive portions of our DNA programming on purpose to confine us in such a way that they could utilize humanity, basically, as we've said, as a slave species, for lack of a better word. And that's not what we were meant to do. All of us have source within us. When we look a little bit further, and this one is talking about it and also bringing up, the Thunderbolts Project and plasma discharge, the fact that, they don't want to look at that. Well, the fact that mainstream science doesn't want to look at it gives you a clue that you're on the right track there. And here we see another hit for intelligent design. Scientific paper reaffirms that new genes were required for the Cambrian explosion. So this period, the Great Unconformity, somewhere between 700 million, maybe 620 million years ago is what they tell us. And again, times, who knows exactly how accurate that is. Well, this Cambrian explosion of life is about 540-ish million years ago. All of a sudden, there's all these new species that just pop up out of nowhere. And the fact that, this is again about 540 million years ago, so we're looking at 160 to 80 million years after this explosive event. All of a sudden, there's all sorts of new species that pop up all over the planet out of nowhere. And they call them bilaterians, which means animals with bilateral symmetry. 157 new genes just appeared out of nowhere. They weren't here before. So obviously this has got to be a mutation, or somebody brought them here.
Mm-hmm. Or somebody brought them here, or somebody directed certain energies and manipulated certain energies to create new forms of life. What about the explanations that are not so scientific? I think people are understanding nowadays that science rewrites itself every day, mostly all the time. Science is rewriting their books. They're saying, oh, well, we didn't mean, we were wrong about this, and we were wrong about that, and we've now discovered this, we've now discovered that. But what about digging into your own soul and getting the answers from yourself, which is what we've done?
So much of modern science is modern damage control.
Yeah.
It's coming back around saying, oops, well, now that's out in the public, so they know this. How can we spin this so that they won't see how it really is? Okay, it's just glaciation. Yeah, that'll do it. Yeah, glaciation on Mars to a much higher extent than glaciation that we show any evidence of on Earth. Earth that's loaded, with so much water. And Mars that has none right now, that's on the surface, barely. There's a little bit of polar ice there. There's water under the surface they know about now. Where did it go if there wasn't a solar flash? Where did it go if there wasn't a great war that involved incredible technologies that blasted away the atmosphere? If you're saying glaciation caused the Grand Canyon, how could it cause something so many times bigger if there's not that much water on the planet, or if it never had that much water on the planet? And if it did have that much water, what happened? Please explain. Please explain, Lucy.
Often this brings me to the place where we've talked about the sun sneeze, and we also talk about how everything changes in the twinkling of an eye. That's the saying that keeps coming back to me when we look at this. And in theory, everything could change. Everything could change densities where it's at, to make some explanation as far as what really happened. Well, nothing disappeared. It's just something changed, and science doesn't understand it.
Yeah, there have been people that just disappeared, entire civilizations that have disappeared. And in many cases, they've ascended. They've literally ascended up and out. Different species have ascended up and out. And it doesn't mean that they're, we might view them as extinct because they're no longer on the density that we can see. But it doesn't mean that they're not there. Again, as we know, there's more to reality than just what we could see on the visible light spectrum. There's so many beings all around us all the time, and some of them are apparently here yesterday or today and gone tomorrow. But that's apparent. Again, the consciousness can expand, the consciousness can change its wavelength. Again, just turn the radio channel. And you jump from rock to classical to jazz to back to rock again, maybe a little country. It's just a matter of turning a dial. And all these things we can relate to consciousness as well. So many beings have decided, that they don't want to be here at certain time periods. And so they go. It's just that simple. Sometimes this might involve what we might look at as a massive extinction event where they literally are shedding their bodies, the physical shells, and are going to take an incarnation on a different plane of existence, perhaps just up a notch in density, or perhaps on a different planet altogether, as there are many, many planets out there. You can't count all the different worlds that are out there to explore. And the guides have talked about that, and the guides that we call the mothers have talked about opening up these worlds for us to explore. That's the beautiful part of this. There's many people that don't want to be on this version of Earth anymore because of the system that's in place. And yet the system, it doesn't have much time left. And it might have more time, unfortunately, than what most people are hoping. And again, to reiterate time frames that we got, we know there's many out there that are saying that we're going to have either a solar flash and, okay, let me backtrack. We have gotten from the guides that the solar flash is what initiates the pole reversal.
Yes. So a lot of these things are just simply not understood. And all of this education and all of these books and all of these vocabulary words are to keep us from our true understanding and our true knowing.
Yeah, there is a little bit of a crazy time ahead of us. It's going to be a roller coaster ride for sure. And, we're still on the first part of the ride, even though it feels like we might be, most of the way through the ride or what have you. No, this is still just the beginning part of this ride. What we have gotten timeline-wise, which again is something where everybody's consciousness can change timelines. I saw one comment somebody made that they said, there's no such thing as timeline changes. Of course there is. This is just part of reality. We could change. They want us to think that things are set in stone, but they're not. Nothing is ever set in stone. And it all depends on the mass consciousness shifting. Now, the individual consciousness can shift their own timeline much easier than shifting the mass consciousness. That takes more work. But the individual can always ascend and move upwards and move into new realities. Again, you don't want to weigh yourself down with lead boots, and there's certain things that are being done on this planet right now that is the equivalent of trying to fly with putting lead weights all around your body. If you know what I mean, one of the biggest things on the planet right now, as far as big topics, you could think about what it is, And as long as we avoid these things, which are all about loading up lead, so to speak, so we can't fly, so we can't ascend, well, we got to avoid that at all costs, because we want to ascend. We want the freedom to choose where we go next and how and what we experience next. There is not a vindictive, jealous God that is truly the creator of this universe or of all things. The jealous, vindictive ones are the controllers that have been in control during the Kali Yuga. So that's who your jealous, vindictive God is. It's just the controllers, who are no higher than fourth density. These are not very high up beings. And in fact, they really can't go where you can go if you choose to go up.
Exactly. I mean, there's so many things that we don't understand and we haven't been taught. And for example, one thing that we've learned on this journey when we work on people, and I've had a couple family members validate this and help me understand it, is time bending. And this is when someone might be having a very difficult time and she might need a repatterning. And I can't repattern at that moment, but say I can pattern 2 hours from now. Well, she'll feel the repatterning in that moment as soon as she asks. So that was amazing that our guides can go before us, ahead of us, and take care of people. We just had a beautiful family member yesterday saying, you guys, I know you started on me before our phone call. And yeah,
Yeah, she said, you guys started hours earlier, didn't you? And well, all it is that we just looked and said, okay, we have a first time person we're seeing at noon, and that we might have looked at that at 9 o'clock in the morning, or even sometimes we'll look at that like say 10 p.m. the night before, just looking at our schedule, and then the guides go and they start to work on the person before we even call them and talk to them. But that's how this works, because again, the positive, benevolent beings, they don't do anything without permission. So again, this is where there are nuggets hidden in all the different scriptures. There's always nuggets. You got to ask before you can receive. It's a law that the benevolent beings follow. Of course, the ones spraying stuff up in the sky don't follow that at all. No. But the benevolent beings do. They respect free will. And so that's part of the conundrum too, because they're not going to impose their will on us. We have to ask. And also, there's so much more to what we see going on behind the scenes on the different densities. We have so many beings that are pulling for us to wake up, to come out of this come out of our sleep, so to speak, that has been, in some cases, kind of a nightmare that we've been going through with these nonstop wars, nonstop lower vibrations, nonstop creating loosh, which again is an energetic food source for beings, again, on that fourth density. They don't need to actually consume food per se, but just energy. So, unfortunately, the energy that humans give off when they're in stressed states, depressed states, panic states, and there are certain chemical compounds that can alter us so that we stay in states where, again, these beings can feed off of us. It's coming to that realization of how things really work, and the fact that we are viewed as a herd cattle to some. But that's not who we are, because Source is in us, and Source wants us to be free. And so, this great solar sneeze, the solar flash will come. They know it's coming. And then it's lights out for the system. So that's when the people that are ready to change will totally change en masse. And those that aren't, they'll go on to another round of existence in a very similar realm to this.
Right. And, scientists try to look at information on the ground and say, well, this doesn't meet our calculations. So where did all this time go? Where did all this information go? It's simply not on that density. It's there, but they can't see it.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's that other statement. Lo, I will tell you a secret. We shall not all die, but we shall all be changed. And, again, there are two divergent paths. And if we follow the controller's path, we're going to end up back on a 3D reality, back in the same control grid on another planet. It's just that simple. And we'll be doing this all over again and again and again. Whereas if we go on the ascending path, we'll find ourselves in a fifth density reality, which would be absolutely a heavenly reality, a beautiful reality where we can create our own our own world around us in such a magnificent and fast way. Everything, as we go up in vibrations, it's much more pliable. So you don't have to wait all these long, you don't have to plant something and then wait 20 years for a tree to start to grow and get to be productive. You think about it, you have a thought, you plant that seed, and it just starts to blossom right before your very eyes. This is the magic, so to speak, of it. Even now, we're starting to go into fourth density, and many people are starting to operate in fourth density, and you'll notice that everything seems a little different. This is why the Aborigines in Australia say it's the return to dream time, because we're operating on a dream time reality all the time.
And the way I look at it, I look at the sun as this big ball of plasma, and our bodies also, they're plasma. And when we receive information from the sun, that's giving us information directly from source. And we look at what's going on around the world, and they're doing things to change that DNA. Why would they want to rewrite the DNA if the energy that we get from source is to help us perfect ourselves?
And, again, this is a science paper, that just is reiterating there's all these new beings that came into existence at this time frame that are leaving fundamental question in evolutionary biology unanswered because they don't have the answer for it. This is what the guides are saying the answer is, and we are at that time point where in just, a matter of a few decades, this flash is going to happen again. And so it's going to change everything. So from that point of view, again, time-wise, what we have gotten is that we're looking probably about 25-ish years away from now, 24, 25, 26, somewhere in that range. It's like about 2.5 decades away when the flash will come. And of course, we are, again, writing this reality. And the solar cycle that we are finding ourselves in right now is apparently more active than predicted. So source and, the mother energies that give birth to everything of the physical realm, they have their own plans too, and they could change things. They could rewrite things. They could, surprise us by coming a little sooner or a little bit later, depending on what's happening out there. And what we've also shared with you guys is like when you see those reliefs and you see those pictures of those beings known as the Anunnaki, with the humans tied at the neck and their arms tied behind their back. And you see these legends that say the Anunnaki were here amongst us and then all of a sudden they were gone. Well, they do know they have a short window to come and to, basically harvest, so to speak. They have a very short window of harvest because they will appear to be physical to us full time. What we get is in about 20 years. So, they have a short time period to convince the world to follow them and to get the world to follow them as much as possible. Otherwise, the herd is heading out the gates and, leaving them in the rearview mirror.
Exactly. And they have ways and they have an understanding, and they know that if they rewrite a lot of our DNA, we're going to be more adaptable to their ways. We're going to be not going to be so wild. We're not going to go against the grain of them. We're going to be kind of okay with doing whatever they say. And this has been going on for centuries. They want us to be docile. So they're changing us chemically to bring about that docile nature so we don't actually understand what's happening, nor do we care. That's the thing. It's like, this is happening. I'll still eat this candy bar, drink that soda. All the time it's making us more and more docile, and we're losing control of our sovereignty.
They say that we have 90% junk DNA. Well, again, DNA has been turned off, and it's being turned on now. And they look to the second chromosome and say, well, in apes, the apes have more chromosomes than we do. The second chromosome fused. Well, how did that happen? Oh, we don't know. We can't explain it. Or they'll try to explain it again, but again, it's intervention. And what happens is, nature, source, God with the big G again, is going to want to correct the original program and allow us the freedom, to go into higher densities. These beings are always trying to sabotage the program, and they are genetic experts to their degree in their way. And so again, rewriting DNA, causing certain aspects of it to become dormant, and infusing these chromosomes, creating new species, and downgrading the physical vehicle for the soul, so to speak, so the soul is not set free to fly. And, Source is going to liberate us again, as long as we don't willingly give away our free will. And in so many ways, we are tricked into giving away the freedom that's right there. They're tricking the sheep into staying in the pen and when the door is opening wide.
Right. And they use our own ego and they use our own desire to want to be safe to get us to point it in their direction. You know, they put out these apps. Oh, have this app and you'll never get lost, or have this app and you'll be able to keep track of everything that you eat and keep your body healthy. No, no, no. That's giving them our power.
Absolutely. So, I hope this is something that is food for thought for many out there. Meditate on it. Go within. See what you find. Zeke's had a little bit of a cough there. See what you find that comes to you. Oh. Zeke, he's had his cough for a day or so. We'll run energy on him. As always, guys, we want to thank you for your support on Ko-Fi and Patreon. Also, do check out Medicinal Foods and use coupon code EEA and get a discount. It also supports the channel. And if you get a chance, check us out more at evolutionaryenergyarts.com. Much love, God bless, and namaste.